How's it going, everyone? We are here for week 3, streamers and waiver wire guys at the Fantasy Football Cafe. If you're checking us out, that means you're on our YouTube channel, so don't be afraid to like and subscribe if you dig what we're saying. I'm here with Jason. How's it going, Jason?
Doing good, doing good. I'm healthy, unlike every other running back that came out of week 2.
See, yeah, I'm like unhealthy healthy. You know what I mean? Where like there's nothing wrong with me, but I'm just like a gross human being, like generally speaking, you
I'm a
know?
healthy blob.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. Like I'm like 70% of what I should be. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I'm working at like basically like Steve Smith right now. That's kind of how I feel, you know?
Yeah. I'm more Adrian Peterson.
You're just
Like,
up on the shelf.
yeah, I got about one healthy leg.
Yeah.
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 A
Anyway,
lot of good years of
there's
me.
there's a lot of guys on one legs after week 2. So in terms of waiver ads, we're probably going to be focusing on, just injuries galore is how you put it.
Yeah, I mean, when you look here, we'll just kind of name off the guys. I mean, Adrian Peterson, Jonathan Stewart, Doug Martin, Danny Woodhead, Amir Abdullah, Arian Foster all went down. I may even be missing one. I don't know. But those are the main guys that I'm looking at. And definitely some key backups that you can probably go out and snag. Obviously, being that it's Monday, we're not going to know the severity of some of these guys' injuries. Obviously, we know Peterson tore meniscus. We know Woodhead done for the year. But obviously, Stewart, Martin, Abdullah, Foster, we're all kind of keeping our eye on. But I think their guys are out there to kind of go up and grab as far as backups go, even if they are just going to miss a week or two, because you look at guys that kind of can fill in at an RB2, it's always at a premium. You need those guys on a week-to-week basis, so they're certainly out there.
Now, you mentioned about 5 or 6 guys here, and I'm going to just focus in on the 4 that I'm really excited about. Jerick McKinnon, number 1, Charles Sims, Melvin Gordon, Theo Riddick. All those guys are just in optimal situations, and most of them were drafted in your leagues, so that's sort of a thing. But, maybe Theo Riddick's still out there, especially in a 10-team league or something like that. I think he'd definitely, potentially still be out there. Charles Sims as well. Certainly not a high-profile guy who's now going to be in a high-profile situation. Jerick McKinnon, I just look at a super athlete. I think running into that Minnesota lineup, it looks like they're going to be more pass-heavy. So, yeah, no, you mentioned Fozzie Whitaker, Matt Asiata as well, Jay Ajayi. I mean, man, if you were a little weak at running back to start the year, you certainly got a bunch of chances, huh?
Yeah, you definitely did. And as you pointed out, those guys, the 4 you mentioned, are the guy you want to go after if they are out there. But obviously, if they're not, Matt Asiata, Fozzie Whitaker, JJ, I'm not really excited about. But it's just more if you're desperate to grab a running back. We've seen Arian Foster, these injuries can linger for a long time. And then all of a sudden, it's like he goes down and you think he's only going to be out for a week or so. And then all of a sudden, he's out 6 to 8 weeks. So that would put him in a situation where he'd see some carries. Whitaker is probably going to only be about a 2-week fill-in, but if the Stewart injury does linger, we saw him rush pretty well. Obviously, you're not expecting 6.3 yards per carry in every game, but if he gets 15 touches a game, he'll be kind of a serviceable guy. Worked well in the passing game as well, saw 4 targets, so could be an option, especially in that division where there is a lot of weak defenses.
Yeah, but as mentioned, if you're in a blind bidding waivers type league, Jerick McKinnon's the guy I'd be throwing all in on. So that's just, yeah. Anyway, in terms of the wide receivers, there's one guy you mentioned here that really stuck out, Tyrell Williams. What are you seeing there?
Well, obviously, I think Travis Benjamin was the hot product last week. I mean, he got picked up right away when Keenan Allen went down. But you look at Tyrell Williams, I like him quite a bit. I think on a consistent week-to-week basis, he might be the more consistent guy. They each saw 6 targets in week 2. He even saw 5 targets in the Chiefs game. I just like him at 6'4", big-bodied wide receiver. He's the kind of typical receiver, Rivers likes to go for to kind of find that consistency. Benjamin's more of your speed threat. I don't think you're going to see 100-plus yards and 2 touchdowns every week. I think he is going to be very hit and miss, kind of a home run type receiver. Williams, I just like what I saw, and I think if he's out there for 70 plus snaps, which he should be yet again through on out, especially this week against the Colts, wide receiver 3, flex spot if you're in dire need, especially with these bye weeks coming up. I think he's a guy I'm going to be hanging on to for a while.
And I mean, with the way Travis Benjamin was running around, he's literally going to kill himself in a few weeks. So he's got to be more careful. I just can't. I can't even with him. But he played tremendous. There's no denying that. He's going to be the top receiving guy. But if you want to talk about top plays of the week, that Tyrell Williams touchdown was absolutely incredible. If you haven't checked that out, all the highlights are on NFL.com. I would certainly go. That's certainly worth your time. He just bowled over 3 people at about the 10-yard line and was pretty incredible. So I think we're going to see more than that, and I definitely agree there. So as far as streaming options, you threw Matt Ryan in here. Probably going to be on your waiver wire. I mean, I don't know how, but it just seemed like after a few down years and, Roddy White fell off and it was just Julio, his touchdowns really went down. Seems like he has some decent weapons around him. Tevin and Devonta in the passing game. Julio, Mohamed Sanu, Jacob Tammy. They're even getting Austin Hooper in the mix, which I'm really excited about. This is pretty intriguing for going forward, and I like Matt Ryan as a guy that you can probably pick up and maybe, keep from now on.
I was surprised. I mean, he didn't go in a lot of my drafts in 10 to 12 team leagues. I mean, I was looking at, he's usually a guy people snag up as a backup over the last year and a half. People grabbed him either kind of early on in the year if they needed to fill in, but I was just, looking through and a lot of people have him. I think it was just because of the 20 to 25 touchdown limit that's been there the last 2 seasons. It's been like, he's not going to get me much, but I like what he has. I mean, Julio Jones, who's not even really 100% healthy, he's even putting up performances that are fairly solid. He's thrown for 730 yards this season, 5 touchdowns, and then obviously he's going to get a Saints secondary this week that's allowed 300 yards in both games. If he isn't out there, I like Joe Flacco yet again. We saw Baltimore. They can't run the football right now, and they're still going to have to throw the ball. Decent matchup this week against Jacksonville. So Joe Flacco's another low-owned guy I think you can go up and snag too.
I like that call. Yeah, and again, I think Matt Ryan, there's a few different types of quarterbacks in the league. There's guys like Andrew Luck who can just still be good, in bad situations. And then there's like guys that are still good pretty much regardless, like Phillip Rivers. And then there's Matt Ryan, who's like a good NFL quarterback, but he needs guys around him, and that's where he kind of, falls in. And I think the additions of Mohamed Sanu and, having some guys as tight ends, I think that actually helped quite a bit. So, yeah, I expect that to continue. We already talked about Jerick McKinnon. Is there anything else you wanted to throw in here?
No, I mean, I like him more in PPR leagues if you're streaming solely for this week. Obviously, a tough matchup against a good front seven for the Panthers, but I think he's still going to pay off in terms of volume. From what I've seen, it's going to be about a 65-35 workload for Asiata and McKinnon, with McKinnon leading the way, of course. I know you're a big fan of McKinnon, obviously the more talented back. I don't think it's going to be quite the situation we saw in 2014 where Asiata was kind of the guy to own. I think it's going to be McKinnon.
I agree. And yes, Asiata is still going to eat into that a little bit. You mentioned Charles Sims here as well. I like that call. I think both those guys are high upside that could pay off, in future weeks as well. And, okay, tight end suggestion, Dennis Pitta. Yeah, baby, let's do it.
How can you not like Pitt? I mean, you saw what he did last week. I mean, it's always been health. I mean, that's been the biggest thing with Pitta. Can he stay healthy? And you look here, Joe Flacco obviously still trusts him and still has a decent rapport with him. Double-digit target game. If he has another one, I like him in this matchup because you look at Jacksonville, they struggled against tight ends. A reasonable pickup, and I think a reasonable guy to also hang on to. I mean, you obviously look, it's Steve Smith, who I like this week if you're looking to stream wide receivers. But it's really him, Wallace, and Pitta. I don't think this running game is going to do anything. I think Flacco's going to throw the ball a ton.
I do too, and it's a great matchup. So certainly agree there. Throwing in a streamer here, Raiders versus the Titans. I think this is one of the most intriguing matchups of the week, just in terms of you're kind of peeking around the corner like, hey, And what are you guys? What are you Raiders? They're like in the distance and it's like all foggy. You're like, this is either a nice old man with a cane or it's like, a pirate with a sword. And you just can't tell from that far away.
We looked at Oakland. You and I, we talked in the team preview, and we're like, I like what this defense is building. I like what they're going to come. They should have a good year where you can stream them. You're going to have some good games. They've been horrible for the first 2 weeks here, but playing the Saints on the road, that's a pass for me. I still think the Falcons offense is good enough to beat up on a defense that's not quite all the way there yet. Tennessee's certainly not. I think it's going to be one of those ones where Oakland's going to kind of just be either average or be actually really good. I don't think they're really going to kill you. There's just too much talent here. In Tennessee, in terms of weapons, they do have a few, but they haven't really put anything all together in terms of the 2 weeks. I still think they're a little bit turnover prone as well.
Yeah, no, definitely agree there. I think both them and you also mentioned the Steelers here, both pretty interesting options for sure.
Yeah, Steelers also low owned. I think you can target them too.
Mm-hmm. So thanks for giving us some plays, Jason. I enjoy them unless these people are going to be in my leagues, and then I'll hate you. But other than that, thanks for tuning in, guys. Check out Daily Fantasy Cafe for our cool tools. If you haven't swung over there yet, and if you're just here for the fantasy football long haul, then just stay here and enter our forums, and we'll talk to you and be nice and such. Anyhow, we'll see you in week 4.